Yo, it's good. It's Skano from the gutter. So another day in America, another mass shooting. You know, America, we've become synonymous with mass shooting. But all this talk about inner city crime. Let me ask y'all something. When I say mass shooting, what's the first image that pops in your mind? Be real. The usual suspects. It has always been the usual suspects that has perpetrated the majority of violent crime and crime in general in this country, in this world. Nobody, no race is more closely associated with criminality than white folks, particularly white America. But let's focus on the inner cities, because that's the main threat. But like I said, last time I checked, I don't know no members, that shoot up schools. Speaking of, mass shootings, there's another mass shooting. How many has that been this month? Was this Michigan? A Mormon church set on fire, 10 people shot, 2 killed. The shooter unalived, you know. And although they have not officially released his identity, we all know it's the usual suspects because black folk, we don't do that shit, Yeah, we got our issues, the gang violence, But nobody on this planet, when we talk about criminality and violence, nobody outdoes white America. So the usual suspects. I don't want to hear another goddamn thing about black crime. What is it with y'all and school shootings? You can't go to church. You can't go to school. You can't go to the goddamn beach. You can't go to the casino. You can't go nowhere. Y'all fuck up everything, man. You do. Like I said, it's in your nature to be violent. This country was founded in violence. Since its inception, violence and corruption and hatred. And it's gotta be a reckoning for that. That's what y'all witnessing. The self-cannibalization of white America. But we gonna rise from the ashes. It's like we always do. So, we're not the main threat here. Not even to each other. Although they will try to convince us of that. They've even brainwashed a majority of us into believing we are our main threat. It's not. It never has been. It always has been white America. You know what I'm saying? Pac said, they say it's the white man I should fear, but it's my own kind doing all the killing here. Yeah, in our little hoods, in our little communities. But when it comes to this entire globe, not just this entire country, this entire globe, ain't nobody perpetrated more violence than white America. Let's be real. So why y'all so overly focused on black America? Terrence Crawford got pulled over the other day, right? In Oklahoma. Apparently for being black after 6 p.m. because that's punishable by death in Oklahoma, I guess. He pulled over. They held him at gunpoint. For what? For being successful. To remind him, no matter what you accomplish in this country, no matter what your status, your celebrity, your wealth, you're still a nigga to them. And they, it's their job to keep us in our place. That's what that shit was all about. They happened to fire them cockazoids, by the way. But that's what it's all about. They're not threatened by black criminality. They threatened by black progression. But why y'all worried about, you know what I'm saying? Deshaun and Tyrone, it's Billy Bob, Kenny, and Jacob that's shooting up all the goddamn schools. They the reason why y'all can't feel safe nowhere. It ain't black America. Let's be real. Did y'all jump on your high horse and push these bullshit narratives? Talking about our criminal nature. And if that were the case, if we criminal by nature, who indoctrinated that shit into us? So, y'all can fall for the woo-woo if you want to, you know. But, you live in a lie. You know it's a lie. We all know who the real threat is, you know. The usual suspects. But, it's the black folks y'all should be worried about, right? We have become synonymous with mass shootings in this country. That is the symbol for America. Violence. And let's be real, it always has been. You know, it has the veneer of, you know, the shine and the glitter on top. But when you scratch beneath the surface of that shit and you expose America for what it really is, yeah, we all know. So if we're going to talk about criminality and violence, like I said, there is none that exceeds white America. Not even close. It's not us that are a threat to y'all. It's y'all that's destroying this country. You know. Y'all. You know. Use us to build this shit up just so y'all could tear it down. You corrupt ass politicians with your racism and your bigotry. It's y'all. You know. It always has been. And there is a such thing as retribution and divine karma. Did y'all ever think that y'all could commit these atrocities, these evils, upon the entire free world for the most part, and think it wasn't gonna be no straightening behind that? Y'all don't believe in God for real. You don't. But y'all quick to call yourself Christians. You know, with your all-white girls' camps and shit. You know, these are y'all God-fearing Christians. You know, Bible in one hand, noose in the other. It's always been that way. You know. So, it is what it is, man. You know, but like I said, I don't know no members. Out of all the hundreds of thousands of gang members in this country, how many of them out here shooting up schools and churches? I'll wait. And I will say this. Usually, when it comes to gang violence, it may seem senseless to those on the outside looking in, but there is, you know, a method to the madness. White folks, y'all just shoot shit up because you're mad at the world. You know what I'm saying? Your house about to get foreclosed, I'm going to go shoot up a school. You know, my wife cheated on me, go shoot up a church. You know, got cheated out of that promotion. Go bomb you know, the usual suspects. You know, so it's laughable to me when I hear these talking points about black criminality. You know, as if, you know, we are just criminals by nature. Ain't that the kettle calling the pot black? No pun intended. As I said, man, when it comes to race, when it comes to violence, you know, and wickedness and evil, there is none that exceeds white America. You know, not in this lifetime. So, It's a day of reckoning, man. You know. And if y'all were so Christian, y'all would understand all this. You know, there is a such thing as divine karma. You know. So you reap what you sow. You know. And unfortunately, like I said, there's a ripple effect. So just gotta weather the storm and allow this self-cannibalization process to play out. And as always, you know, like I said, we'll rise from the ashes. But the whole world knows. These other races that come over here to assimilate, you know, and they pick up the mantle of racism and prejudice, all the while knowing. Y'all know. You know. There is none that exceeds white America. You know. Like I said, they sell their soul. They sell their butthole for a piece of the American dream. You know, the American lie. You know what I'm saying? This country could have been great. Could have been the greatest country in the world. You know. But y'all tearing it the fuck down. We built the shit up just for y'all to turn around and tear it all down. You know. The usual suspects. So while y'all hyper-focused, you know, on inner city crime and woo-woo, you know, and mass deportation, you can remove every single other from this country. Y'all still gonna be your own worst enemy. You always have been your own worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, divine karma, you know, so have some, you know, because Babylon is falling, man. Shit was all prophesized. It's all been written, you know. And what goes around comes around. So, like I said, man, you cannot commit the atrocities that this government and white folks, and I'm talking about the ones that are hateful, you know, the hateful racist bigots that perpetuate, you know, this negativity that's permeating the atmosphere of this country right now. This ain't got nothing to do with black folks. And y'all ain't never been concerned with black criminality. It's just a talking point. Y'all are the savages. You know, there is no one that exceeds white America when it comes to violence and immorality. No one. So, you know, it is what it is. But, like I said, you know, it's black folks y'all should be worried about. But the next time, you know, you turn on your smartphone or your TV or whatever, and you see that there has been another mass shooting, you already know, you know, who the suspect is. 99.99999% of the time. The usual suspects. It is what it is, man. No ops left Scano. You already know.